Welcome to Self-Care with Eunice. In this video, we're going to be discussing the 5 keys to mastering your finances. Having said that, personal finance is a huge part of self-care. Having financial freedom allows you to do more of what you love, and besides, when you're worried about the money you don't have, you barely have time for anything else. So let's get started. 1 is income. If you're facing financial hardships, chances are you either have an income problem or a spending problem. So in terms of income, you need to increase your earning capacity. Now, there are various ways of doing this. If you're a professional, for example, you may consider furthering your studies and specializing. If you're a business owner, you may consider expanding your business. You may ask for a pay rise if you're employed. You may start a side hustle, and you may create passive income streams. Now, all of these things take a lot of time, effort, and money in order to succeed in. Now, you may also consider selling used items that you no longer need, albeit this is but a temporary solution. Now, remember to invest in yourself and improve your financial literacy. 2 is spending. You need to ensure that you're not burning through your money, and this requires you to have an understanding of your spending habits. So to avoid making unwarranted purchases and wasting all your money, you have to have a budget. So ensure that your budget covers all essential bills like food, water, electricity, insurance, housing, and any other financial obligation that you may have. If you have a deficit after covering bare basics, then you need to rethink your spending habits. Ask yourself, do I really need this? And is there a way I can cut down on this expense? And if not, then you may just have an income problem, which we have already discussed. So in case you have a surplus, prioritize saving, after which you may consider your wants. So avoid making a budget and starting it somewhere forgotten. You need to balance out your budget. Do not look at what were the projected expenses versus the actual expenses and why the difference, and adjust your next one accordingly. Also, avoid expenses that are not within your budget. So 3 is savings. So I'm sure you've all heard the expression, pay yourself first. And you need to practice this. It may not be easy, but it's definitely doable. And your saving habits need to reflect your priorities. So be clear on your saving goals. Ideally, these are short-term goals, i.e. you hope to accomplish them in under 5 years. And they may include things like a house deposit, a car purchase, and emergency fund. Now, for emergency funds, you need to determine your goal, which is usually 6 months worth of expenses. Now, at first, this may seem like such a daunting number, but don't let this demotivate you. The key is to start and keep going. Now, even if you have an outstanding debt, you still need to prioritize having an emergency fund of at least 2 months worth of expenses, so that in case anything happens, it acts as a buffer, so you don't end up spiraling deeper into debt. So you need to set up a savings account, preferably one with an interest rate that is higher than the inflation rate, so you don't end up losing your money over time. Check out the different types of account out there and decide on one that's most suitable for you. Currently, the recommendation is to set up a money market account over a traditional savings account. Next, it's debt. This is a frenemy of sorts. Technically, you may make money off the bank, especially if the interest rate is below the inflation rate, but this is rarely the case. So before you take on debt, you need to ensure that you understand the terms of the contract. For example, what happens if you miss out on a payment? You need to be clear on the use of the money. Is it for a house mortgage or is it for business? And you need to have a realistic repayment plan. We often think that the only thing limiting us are our finances, but this may not be the case. For example, you want to start a business. Have you done your due diligence? Do you know and have what it takes to succeed in that business? Do you have an actionable business plan? Or are you just going to sink money into it and hope for the best? In which case, you may be headed for financial disaster. Moving on, let's talk about credit card debt. This is one that you should avoid at all costs because the interest rates hike up so high that you may soon end up with a crushing amount of debt. So, having said that, whatever amount of debt you may have, prioritize paying it. Because if you have a debt that you're unable to pay off, it may have such a detrimental effect on your mental health. But if you find yourself in this kind of situation, do not despair. What you need to do is come up with a plan. So you need to list all your debt from the largest and remember to indicate the interest rate. And ideally, you want to start by paying off the most damaging ones first. And you need to include your repayment plans in your budget. And in order to do this successfully, you also need to evaluate your income and spending habits and adjust accordingly. Now, let's talk about taxes. And the reason I've put it in this segment is because I think of it as a form of debt to the government. So you need to file them on time to avoid any penalties. Be organized and systematic in how you do this and avoid last-minute rushes. Also, find legal ways to minimize your taxes as much as possible. 5 is investing. And when you're investing for the long term. I.e., you don't expect to require the money you're putting in the next 5 to 10 years. So you need to be clear on your investment goals. Is it for a retirement fund or is it for a college fund? And there are various investment strategies that you can use depending on your goal. If you want to invest in individual stocks, you can test your skills using virtual cash. And there's also a number of advice that you can follow, such as be realistic when considering buying or selling stocks, especially those that are poorly performing. If stock prices increase by 15%, it's generally an indication to buy. If they drop by 15%, then it's an indication to sell. You also need to check the price to earning ratio. If it's more than 17, then it's taken to mean as the company is overvalued and you may need to reconsider. And if it's less than 17, then it may mean that the company is undervalued and you may consider buying. But ensure you use these tips in conjunction with other data and do your due diligence before putting your money in. I got this tip from my finance book that I read quite a while back. I don't recall exactly which book it was, but if I do, I'll make sure to link it down below along with other resources that you may find useful. So another way to invest is through an index fund such as SP500, and you may do this through an online broker such as Vanguard and Schwab. This is currently the most recommended method of investing, especially if you're new to the game. You might also invest in mutual funds and EFTs, and for short-term goals, you may consider some low-risk investments such as treasury bills. So as I conclude this video, there is a saying that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So ensure to start now. That's it from me. Thanks for listening and see you next time.